Welcome to The Road Reflected with Nicole Wakeland. Automotive from the lighter side. That means cars, but also cookies, coffee, and pie. Up first, what's Nicole behind the wheel of this week?
Okay, guys, I am behind the wheel of a bunch of Hyundais this week. There's the Ioniq 5, which...
Wait, can we call it the iconic Ioniq?
No, we can't.
Why not? It's a little bit iconic. Kind of looks like a Viper inside, a little bit.
It looks like a Viper?
Oh, it's got this sort of sci-fi thing. It's got a 70s sci-fi vibe going on.
No, it definitely has a sci-fi vibe. And you're not the first person to say it looks very 70s. Somebody else said they thought the front of it looked like the cars that you would see like in like TV shows and movies where like, this is what the future is going to look like.
Exactly.
And that was the future car. And lo and behold, it's 2023 and that is the future car. So I guess if you want to call it the iconic Ioniq, I guess you can do that.
Okay. The Ioniq, iconic. That. It was pretty Ioniq.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I got the Ioniq. Now I'm calling it the Iconic 5.
You are.
I've got the Ioniq 5, which is in my driveway. Mm-hmm. And then I drove the Ioniq 6, which you haven't seen because that was at a first drive and the embargo lifted on that like 6 hours before we recorded this. So
was it also iconic?
It was also iconic.
Was it? Excellent.
We'll just go with that.
Are they both full electric?
Yeah, they're both EVs.
Right.
So there's going to be the 5, the 6, and the 7. See? So they like have a naming convention. I want to know if they're going to get to like, hi, the Hyundai Ioniq 49 in like 5 years or something. I don't know where you change that naming convention. But so they had the Ioniq 5, which is what I had this week. And the Ioniq 5 was sort of the first in this little lineup of new EVs. And it did have this whole new style. Like it really takes a departure from the rest of the Hyundai lineup. It looks, like you said, that future thing. It doesn't have the sort of same old that you see.
Minimalist white.
Minimalist. It's very minimalist. It's very white inside, which honestly, the white freaks me out a little bit because I have yet to find a car that if you wear just not even like brand new dark blue jeans, if your jeans, the blue, eventually you look at the seats, you're like, hey, my white seats have a little sheen of blue. The ink, the dye in your pants comes off on them.
Something to be aware of if you're a denim fan and you like white interiors.
I know. Who doesn't wear denim? Everybody wears denim. Everybody wears denim. So that's my only nervousness, although I only have that for a week, so it's not like I can really see whether or not it's going to be an issue. But that's my scary. That and the fact that if you have children, I mean, that's all you really need to say. If you have children, period. Right. If you have children and you have a white interior, that's a bad life choice because it's not going to go well.
I do like the distinct lack of buttons, though. Very minimalistic, a lot of space to store stuff.
It is very button free. It's very clean. Like, so the infotainment screen and the instrument cluster, and it's a digital instrument cluster, they're right next to each other, like on one panel. So it looks like one giant thing, but it's actually two separate screens. But it's just this whoosh, this like rectangular screen on top. And you don't immediately see like 8,000 buttons. I always think of this one vehicle, the Buick Cascada, which was a convertible that nobody ever knew existed, but it had 900,000 buttons on the dashboard. You got in, it was like, am I driving a car? Or am I in a fighter jet? There were so many buttons. So I like seeing it get a little clean, but still just enough buttons. Like I can adjust my heat and my AC. I don't want to like have to go into infotainment or do touch sensitive craziness for all that.
Can we talk about the weird times this car decides to talk to you?
This like really freaked you out.
It freaked me out too. Because you're driving the car, and that's kind of when you expect it to give you feedback, like, hey, your turn coming up. No, it doesn't talk to you. It makes just a lot of beeps. Someone's passing you in your blind spot or whatever, it beeps, which is pretty normal, right? But then my daily driver is a 4xe Jeep, right? So I'm used to plugging my car in.
It's a Wrangler.
4xe, yeah. And I plug it in, and when you plug it in, it just the lights blink and it tells you it's charging and it's fine.
Correct.
This thing though, you plug it in, and all of a sudden, some lady out of nowhere, like God herself, is like, we're charging now.
Yeah, it did weird you out. And to be honest,
like, where is that voice coming from?
It's trying to be helpful. It's a helpful little voice.
It was very disturbing.
Well, because sometimes when you saw this, we're at a charging station and you're plugging in and you're watching to see like, is it connected? Is it not connected? Wait, lights look like it's connected, but is it really charging? I don't know if it's charging. I heard the little connector click. It looks like it's scanned, and then you're like, I don't know. Then all of a sudden, boom, voice of Hyundai God comes down and says, I am charging. Right. So you don't have to worry.
Charging started.
I kind of like that.
Do I need that though? It's very loud. Like it's louder than the backup beep. It seems like it's more noticeable.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're charging. What if your charging station is the middle of a truck stop? There have been where I've stopped in a truck stop. You got trucks and all their trucky noise. Maybe you wouldn't hear it if it was just like vehicle charging. You would know.
Well, I'll give him that it's iconic. So maybe that's part of the brand.
Say iconic. Good gravy. So freaked out by that. Although I'm not. I like that. I like that. the Ioniq lineup. I like both the 5 and both the 6. They're different. The big difference, I guess, is your 5 is the crossover version, small crossover. It's still small. It's not a big vehicle. Enough room for 5 people, but you're probably not going to put 3 adults in the back seat for a really long period of time, or you're going to have friends no more. Like, they won't like being squished back there. The 6, even more so. In fact, you are 6'3",
Yes.
and I think in the rear seats of the Ioniq 6, you would find your head squished because it has this really super slopey roofline that looks sexy from like outside the car. It's a good looking car. But once you get inside, it's like, whoa, like not in the front seats. I think in the front seats you'd be fine. But in the back, there's no way. You would be either sitting with your hair hitting the top of the car, or you'd be kind of doing that sort of surreptitious kind of squinch, like you feel like you're in a smaller space than you are.
Yeah.
But so I don't think that, but if you're not putting people in the back seat all the time, it does have a much sleeker style. It has a lot of it took what they did on the Ioniq 5, which has all the EV stuff. It has strong acceleration. Of course, there's no engine.
Yeah,
so
sport mode's pretty cool, I got to say.
Yeah, so the sport
I was
mode,
in the passenger seat, she hit sport mode, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm thrown back like it's not really 5G's acceleration, but it kind of felt roller coastery a little bit. I mean, I was there. Again, back to the Viper reference. It was a little bit like the Viper. You hit the turbo button and boom.
Okay, turbo button, but you don't have to fight Cylon, so I guess it's good at the end of that.
Which kind of was a letdown, honestly.
But it's a lot in very many ways the same, but I do feel like the 6, they tweaked things a little bit. They changed it. It's sort of like they took what they did, which was really good with the 5, and then they said, okay, we got to make it better. We just can't come up with the same thing and make it into a sedan. We got to make it a little better. It handles a little better. It's a little crisper. I like this styling move forward a little bit, but it still has one of my favorite styling things. I love the pixels. I had someone argue with me about them being called pixels. Little squares.
Oh, the 4 little squares in the steering wheel?
Yeah, so on the 5, there are 4 little squares instead of an H logo on the steering wheel. Yeah. In the 6, there's 4 little squares, but they light up. And then they change color. I was backing up.
What do they do when they light up? Just match the interior?
No, they don't match the interior. Ambience? I was told by the Hyundai guy who was riding in the back of the car with me during the drive that they change depending on what is happening with your car. Like it's gonna. And I did see them. They were sort of like this sort of soothing blue, and then they were a little more white, and so they do change color a little bit. How? I don't know. It's like a mood ring. I don't get it. If the car's in a good mood, it's blue, and it's a bad mood, is it going to turn red? I'm not sure. But they are supposed to change color a little bit, so you're going to have this sort of additional bit of mood lighting on it's a mood lighting steering wheel. Who doesn't like ambient lighting on a steering wheel?
I will say that watching you drive this thing and looking over, so the biggest thing I get with electric cars, and one of the reasons that I own a plug-in hybrid is that I get range anxiety.
Yes.
I'm a big range anxiety guy. But I have to say, looking at the giant screens, the Ioniq seemed to throw a lot of information at you to kind of reduce that range anxiety. Did you find that?
It does. And most of them do. They have various screens you can look at so that you can see how far you have to go. And if you use the native navigation, not like your CarPlay, not your Android Auto, but the one that comes with the car, it can route out a lot of stuff to say, okay, you're going from here to here. You need to stop at these places and these are your nearest charger. But what I like, Hyundai does this, is you get this cute little, you hit the EV button on the infotainment and you'll get a graphic that shows you how much of a percentage of your battery you have left. It shows you where the nearest charging station is, and it might not be like a bank of Electrify America chargers. It could be like the one we were at. It was like Jack Smith Welding.
Right.
Apparently Jack Smith had a charging station. I don't know if he'd let me use it, but he did have one. So it shows you the nearest one. This is like 2 miles, I think, from where we were sitting in a parking lot. But then it also shows you like not just the percentage of your battery, but how far you can go, an estimated range. And it lets you know, because the if you're using the HVAC, that takes down how far your range is. So it lets you know if you choose to just suffer with whatever the natural environment is, you can go X miles. If you choose to turn on the AC, it's X minus whatever. So you get a guideline, and it all depends. Like the thing with range is that it's just like fuel economy. It says you get 20 miles to gallon. Well, it depends how you drive. Maybe you're going to get 18. Maybe you're going to get 22. Your mileage may vary how far you're going to go, but it does make it a little easier so that you're not quite so nervous. And you can see some of that information right on the instrument cluster as you're driving too, which, by the way, changes color as you go through those drive modes. When you push sport, it gets this angry red thing. Too. It gets all sorts of cool and angry red. So I like the Ioniq 5. I think it's a great car. I think it's the kind of thing that attracts attention. It sort of brings attention. Like someone's going to see you driving that and wonder what the heck you're driving. Because especially from the front, it looks really different / weird.
Plus those little front air dams open and close when you start and stop the car. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's going to get attention. People are going to go, ooh, that's neat.
The one guy who's standing there as you happen to park your car and turn
hoping
off.
he doesn't get run over. Yeah.
Why would I be running over anything?
He's going to be like, that's a very iconic vehicle. It's about to run me over right now.
I'm getting run over by an iconic Ioniq. Oh, Lord, help me. Okay, now that I've been gabbing about cars for a little bit, let me tell you who I am. I'm Nicole Wakeland. I've been writing about cars for, I don't know, a little over a decade now, I think.
I'm pretty sure that makes you an automotive journalist.
Yeah, automotive
And that
journalist.
makes me an automotive journalist by marriage.
By association?
Yes.
Okay, there. All right.
Kind of like I'm Irish by marriage. I'm also an automotive journalist by marriage.
Okay.
Our children are too, because our children getting to ride in all these vehicles you get to review.
I feel like whoever has to sell my kids cars going forward,
It's gonna be a tough
sorry, because they've ridden in the back of so many cars over the years. My daughter is finicky about the sound that power seats make. Like she calls them movie seats, not like movie like you go to the TV, or go to the theater, but movie like they move back and forth. She called them. She's like, these movie seats are loud. It's like, are you really picking on the motor in the seats? So to say that she's going to be finicky as she buys cars through her life is an understatement.
I like Mom, this doesn't have heated rear seats like the G-Wagon did.
Yeah. So they also have really unrealistic expectations because your average college kid is probably not going to buy that. They're lucky if they've got, I don't know, you get a steering wheel, seats, and an engine. Boom, that's it. You're good to go.
Right.
So my kids have been ridden in a lot of the cars. Husband has ridden in a lot of the cars. And I have driven a lot of the cars.
It does make finding your car in a parking lot particularly challenging.
It does. Okay, so here's the funny thing. So Auto Journalist Problems 101, you forget what you're driving. And you walk out into the parking lot at the grocery store and, okay, so I was driving Ioniq 5 this week. And maybe next week I'm driving a Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and I walk into the parking lot with a Jeep key in my hand looking for a Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where did I park? I can't remember where I parked the car. And I'm beeping as I'm looking for a Jeep Grand Wagoneer until I suddenly realize it is a Jeep key in my hand. I am driving a Jeep. I am never going to find a Hyundai with this car. Right. And I've done it. I have walked up to the wrong car. Like I have found the car I drove last week that belongs to a real human, and I'm clicking the button. I'm like, this isn't even my car. What am I doing? So it's a challenge.
It is first world problems, journalist problems.
First world problems. So I've been driving cars for years. I fly all over the world driving cars. I test drive them. They drop off cars for me to drive on a weekly basis, which is what the Ioniq 5 was, whereas the Ioniq 6 was a car that I actually flew to San Francisco where it was all rainy. Oh, no, wait, that was Arizona. Still rainy. I still got rain. No matter where I went the last few weeks, it's been raining. So we fly around and we drive these new vehicles, and it gives you a pretty good idea of what's coming, what's current, what's outdated. And after driving enough of them, like my kids who can criticize the sound of power seats, you start to get a feel for what's a good car and what's a bad car. Now that, it depends what you think is a good car. If you're looking for a gigantic SUV to haul your family of 5 and your boat,
It has a Jeep logo on it, hint.
that is going to be different than the college kid who just graduated and needs something to get back and forth to work.
Right.
So what's the perfect car, the best car? It really depends on the person. Most cars that come out today, really, honestly, they're great cars. I mean, I want to say there's no bad cars. There's lesser cars. Some are not as good as others, and some just don't have all the fancy. Like people knock a car because it's simple or because does not have heated seats and doesn't have a giant infotainment screen. Well, if it does the job that you expect it to do, if you're buying a Nissan Versa and you just need a nice affordable sedan that gets good fuel economy and gets you from point A to point B, that does a great job of it. If you wanted a luxury car and buy that, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So a lot of it is finding the car that works for you. And for me, what I like to focus on is a lot of the stuff that makes the car what you like. I can talk about horsepower. I can talk about torque. I can talk about gear ratios. I can talk about a lot of that stuff. But to most people, they're not going to say, well, that one has more torque than horsepower, but that one has more horsepower than torque, and that one has 250, and that one has 257. I don't know if most people don't look at that.
Well, that's the biggest thing I've learned in all the years watching you in this industry, and I don't get to go on all the cool programs you get to go on, which is sad. But every once in a while, they'll include a +1, or there'll be a family event in a minivan, and they'll ask you to bring the family, and so the girls and I get to go or whatever. But what I've learned the most in these occasional times where I get to see the product managers of these various companies talk is really, and I don't really have this kind of awareness. I hadn't really thought about it, I guess, but is how purpose built cars are nowadays. It seems like it's a very rare vehicle that's trying to be all things to all people. They all have even minivans. This minivan is designed for the young couple. This different minivan, though, is designed for a family of 4. While this other minivan is really targeting the family of 6 who likes a little capability.
Right.
And so there's so much thought that goes into them. It's not really a matter of fact, it doesn't seem like it's about which car's better. It's more about what are you trying to get out of a car.
Right. And, you'll have, like you said, there's a bunch of different minivans. There's a bunch of different crossovers, especially with crossovers. There's a gazillion of them out there right now because it's sort of the car of the moment. Everyone says sedans are dead, but there are still a lot of sedans on the road as you're looking at all those SUVs. And what that does is it lets you pick. Having that wide range of options lets you pick what works for you. And I'm a big believer in you pick what works for you. Don't be swayed because you really fell in love with this car. You drove it. You thought it was great. It fits your pricing. They have it available, which is another big issue these days. If you like it and then your buddy's like, I think I'm going to pick on a brand. I think Toyotas are junk. Don't buy it because your buddy said it was junk. You can find somebody else who says, oh my gosh, Toyotas, best car ever. Buy it because you've done a little bit of research. It fits the bill for what you need and you like driving it. You have to like what you drive. You're going to spend some time, even with people not commuting like they used to, you're still running around with the kids or running to the grocery store, or running to pick people up at the airport or going on that family vacation. You got to make sure the car you drive is one you like and get the information that makes you know that that's the right car, that it's comfortable, it has the right features, that it has the right look, and it should just make you feel good when you're in it.
Okay, so all that said,
yeah.
I'm going to use a little lingo here, industry lingo that I learned only through osmosis.
Okay.
And again,
I hope he uses
automotive
it right.
journalist by marriage.
Oh gosh.
What is your daily driver?
Oh, look at you with the daily driver.
See, I'm pulling out the terms.
Job.
I'm feeling very proud of myself.
I'm very proud. Good job,
So the daily driver is the car that the journalist actually owns and supposedly drives daily. However, because they're journalists and they generally are constantly test driving various vehicles that they're loaned for a period of time, they actually don't drive their daily drivers that often. But
it depends.
She does own a car. Yes. And she picked it herself. And so what is the car you own?
My car, and because I don't drive it a lot, I've had it for a lot of years. It's a 2010. It's getting a little old at this point. I have a Dodge Charger, but it's not like, I'm not driving a Hellcat, people. Which is a shame. But I bought it when it was still, my kids were still little.
To be fair, Hellcats didn't exist then.
They didn't. Right. It was a sad, dark time.
It was a dark time. It was a dark muscle car time.
Yeah. And so this was the base trim. It has nothing fancy. It's got fabric seats. It doesn't even have infotainment. It has a screen for the radio.
Yeah, it predates all that stuff.
It predates all that stuff.
We're lucky there aren't the little push buttons that move the little line back and forth on the radio.
It's just shy of that. But the thing was, I got it because I wanted a car that was fun to drive, that was large enough to put my kids in and all of their book bags, and one was horseback riding at the time, and we had all this stuff, and I just wanted a car that was fun. I had come off of, believe it or not, a Scion XD. Scion's gone, so I can say it. I hated that car. I got it because I was trying to be a responsible adult, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna get this really small car. This is fine. I'm just gonna drive the kids around. This is fine. It's really fuel efficient, and then everything was breaking.
Well, we did get your license plate to be Scion Raider.
Yeah.
And put little kill markings for Vipers on it, which was kind of awesome.
Is this like the Battlestar Galactica episode?
It's the BSG. We're just doing a little geek cred in here. Just a classic Battlestar, by the way. I mean, the new one is pretty good, but we're talking classic now.
Okay, I'm glad that you clarified.
Just being clear.
Okay.
But what's cool about that car is it is an older style. What I like about it is it's the Dukes of Hazzard vehicle, first of all, which is pretty awesome. But then second of all, it was a great car.
It is not painted orange or anything.
It's not. It's actually politically correct.
Yeah,
generally.
It's gunmetal. Gunmetal. I think it's just called gunmetal.
Sort of a gray brown color.
Am I remembering? I think it was gunmetal. It's like this brownish. Someone told me it looked like the color of poo, and I'm not. It is not. It is gunmetal.
It was a great car for our daughters to learn to drive on. Both of them learned to drive with this vehicle.
Yep.
Because it's not a standard. It's an automatic.
It's not
quite that old, but it's a rear wheel drive. No, it has ABS, but it does not have all wheel drive. So here we live in New Hampshire, right? So this is New England snow country.
Yep.
And our daughters are learning to drive on a rear-wheel drive Dodge Charger in New England.
So, they know how to have fun. I think they could both have a little fun doing donuts in the snow if they wanted in a responsible way in an empty parking lot. But yeah, so they learned the hard way how to drive in the winter.
And our oldest has an all-wheel drive vehicle now, and she's like, "This is amazing."
She's like, "You tortured me." I'm like, "No, I gave you skills,
but now you're not scared in the snow."
Right? She's fine in the snow. Both of them, I took them out in storms to teach them how to drive, because the only way you learn how to drive in the snow is you drive in the snow.
You throw snow tires on, cinder block in the trunk. That's how you do it.
Winter tires, not snow tires.
Sorry, correct.
Oh,
yes.
you're
See,
fail.
I'm only by marriage, people.
Because
I'm
the
not
reason
a
they say
professional.
winter is because it's about cold. It's partly about snow, but the temperature outside, the guideline they say, I think under 40 degrees, because the rubber actually gets harder and stiffer and more brittle, and it doesn't grab the road as well. So winter tires are for winter, not just for snow. And they make any kind of winter driving, whether it's wet or snowy or cold and completely dry, better than having even all seasons. All seasons do it, but it's like degrees of betterness. Summer is for
That's
summer.
one of the big things I learned in this whole watching you go through this all was that I was not a big believer in winter tires. I
job.
only had all seasons.
Yes.
And I thought all seasons were fine, especially if I got fancy, more expensive all seasons.
Yes.
And then having watched you actually get us winter tires and swap them on the Charger, I was like, "Oh, this is actually something we should be doing more often on all the cars."
It's like, oh, lo and behold, she knows
This
what
is
she's
actually
talking
a
about.
thing. Who knew?
Well, I did this ice drive once. I went to Notre Dame with the guys, and with the guys from Tire Rack, and they put us on the ice rink there, and we drove cars in an ice rink
Yeah,
to show
that's
us
pretty insane.
exact same car, exactly the same.
Did you hit the
everything, and they
Zamboni?
changed. I did not hit. I hit nothing.
Okay.
I hit some cones. I ate some cones. That's okay. Right. But you had the same car, just with different tires, like the exact same car, and you could see I slam on the brakes on this one, and I go this many feet. I slam on the brakes with the winter tires, and you go markedly less. And even in terms of how much you slide when you do sharp turns, it's all better. And it makes a huge difference. I wish everyone could drive a car with winter tires and then turn around and put all seasons in the exact same conditions, because it makes a significant difference in how your car drives. I'm go winter tires, go.
I feel like there's a whole future episode on tires.
There could be.
I feel like that might actually
Weirdly, I could talk about tires forever.
that might be a thing.
Hey, wait, did we just drive by a bakery? Okay, something else that I could talk about forever is pastries.
Ooh.
Yeah, because food is good. So I love to bake. It's my thing. It's my happy place. I'm not a pandemic baker, people. I've been doing this forever.
She is.
I have been baking forever. But one of the fun things about doing all these drives is I get to go to cool places and find coffee and bakeries all over the world.
Pastries, cookies, pies, you name it.
Yeah, all those things. My favorite pie shop is Julian in Julian, California.
So how many times have you and some of your journalist friends actually attempted to get pies back home via plane?
Let's clarify, not attempted, successfully transported pies home. So I know, I think 4 or 5 of us have taken at least one pie. I have one colleague who has taken multiple pies.
Julian's
Also,
like fruit pies, so these are not easy pies to
yeah,
transport.
you can forget. But also, this same person, Eileen, she has taken pizzas, frozen pizzas home from Chicago in her tote bag.
This has started a rivalry. So I actually flew down to Florida, in the Miami area,
Yes.
To visit some friends on my own. And because Nicole had just gotten back with bringing a pie from Julian, I took this as a challenge, and I brought home not one, but 2 key lime pies, which are frozen key lime pies in a cooler bag in a plane home. And I got them home.
They were really good pies too.
So this is a thing.
Do you remember what the name of the pie place was that you went to? Fail.
I didn't write it down.
See, it's a really good key lime pie. You'll have to look.
It's a really good. I'll have to put that in the show.
And they
notes.
had like 30 different kinds of pie or something, didn't they?
They
give
do.
you like
They
a
have
pie
she has a
sampling?
lot of she has an amazing story. It's this little hole in the wall pie shop, and like the Mormon Tabernacle Choir stops there for the key lime pie. Like this woman like makes legit key lime pie, and every kind of flavor: chocolate chip, mocha, and of course lime up the wazoo. So anyway, but that was I'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, you got to look it up.
Okay.
You can't like mention
I
the
will.
place and
I'll
not have
look
the
it
name. So because I said Julian Pie Company, my favorite
Julian
pie
is
company
great.
on the entire planet.
Now, why do you like Julian so much?
Because it's just really good. I don't even know. They have a pretty decent selection. I don't know. Maybe they have like 10 different kinds in every given time. Like there's always an apple pie, but some of them are seasonal. They have this, I think they call it mountain berry. It's all these dark red berries in it, but it depends on what's available. It's a very common drive stop when we're driving out in that area of the country, and they'll they have us do the drives. We swap drivers and the other person drives because you're teamed up with people. And Julian is like, swap at Julian. We're all like, yeah, okay. You don't even need to put the nav in. I'll just go to Julian, swap there, and get a pie and get a coffee. Normally we just get a slice, but then it was like, hey, can I take a pie home? So, so I like all of them. I like the mountain berry one the best. But
I think mountain berry.
Your strawberry, what did I bring you?
Well, strawberry rhubarb is my favorite pie.
Okay.
But But the mountain berry is the most unique one from them.
It was
one of
good.
my favorites.
It's really good. I like the mountain berry. And when
You
you're
don't get
there,
mountain berries on the East Coast very easily.
no. And when you're there, they will warm up said pie and put a scoop of ice cream on it, so you have a melty, ice creamy pie.
That's as God intended.
Mess as God intended,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. So my other weakness, it's a weakness, is Crumbl cookies because I love cookies.
Yeah.
There are 2 Crumbls by us, which I'm going to tell you, Crumbl has 6 cookies every week. They change.
And they're different. Yeah.
Except for the chocolate chip and the sugar cookie. But then every now and then they have a mystery cookie. And the mystery cookie is different at every location. And you don't know
Which
till
is
you go.
evil.
Because then we go to both.
Because then we got to both. And you can't really just order one Crumbl cookie.
You can, technically, in a little
Even though
pink
they're the
box.
size of your hand.
Yes.
Like, hold your hand out and spread it as wide as you could.
Yeah, that's
And
about
that
it.
might just hold a Crumbl cookie.
Yeah, and they're really thick. It's like
And they're thick.
a half a dozen cookies in a cookie.
So imagine a cookie that wide,
Yeah.
that's thick and soft baked, and then you have some kind of usually icing on top that's another quarter or half inch.
Yes.
So these are like almost
And
an
then
inch and a half tall cookies.
Like if you had a cookie that was,
and then some kind of crumble
Yeah, there'll
on
be
top,
like
like
Oreo
crushed
crumble
Nutter
or-
Butters or Oreos.
do you know what they have this
They
week?
put cookies on their cookies, people. That's what happens
Do you
at
know what they have
Crumbl.
this week? Do you know it's Easter this coming Sunday?
Yeah.
So they have they look, I don't know if they're officially Cadbury because it doesn't say Cadbury in their description, marketing legalese
Right,
and whatever.
right.
It looks like the little tiny Cadbury eggs that have the hard candy shell, the chocolate.
Yes.
Oh, it looks really good. That's what we're getting later. I'm getting one of those. You're going to see it. When you look at my videos, I've now started tucking a cookie, either Crumbl or wherever I am, into all the videos that I put up on my social media, like on Instagram and
Can we just say
TikTok.
also that Crumbl won April Fool's Day?
Oh my
Did you
gosh.
see this?
They did. So for April Fool's Day, I'm like, it's not the right time to release a cookie. What is happening?
They had
Why
a
is
cookie
there
release on
cookie?
Saturday, like it was a.
And
like
I
it was
look at
Monday.
it and I'm like, that's strange looking chocolate. And I'm like, that's what? Oh my gosh. They actually made, how they have puppuccino at Starbucks?
Right.
They made dog cookie.
Well,
they made
Crumbl
a
does
video.
these slow-mo videos
Yeah.
of their cookies being decorated, right? And you'll see like the icing go on,
Drizzling
or the
on.
Crumbl being slow-mo dropped. And now
Sprinkled
you've got this
frosting.
video of like, it's clearly like high-end dog food coming out of a can and plopping onto
They
a
blop
cookie.
it on with like the ice cream scoop they would use to put stuff on. It's like
So they're
blop.
making like their 6 cookies. They even changed their logo.
Their logo. Yes, there was a dog in the video at one point. Like if you really weren't paying attention, it was like, wait, these are for dogs. And then their logo, which is normally like a happy little baker with a hat, became a little puppy. It was
I
like a
kind of
little
wanted to
dog
run over
logo.
and get a cookie for our dog Sokka. But
I don't think they
couldn't.
really made them.
No, I
if
think
they
it was a
had
joke.
made them, I would have
I
gone
think I might have.
and been like, that cookie that you made for the dogs for April Fools, can I get that? Because I
that
have
really
a
a
dog.
thing?
I would do that. I would buy the
Savory
dog
dog
cookie.
cookies.
Just a little dog cookie. Although for our dog, that cookie that's huge.
Oh, we'd feed him for a week.
We have a
Our
tiny
dog's
little
less than
dog.
3 pounds. He's
Yeah, we
tiny.
have a wee tiny. It's not like a German Shepherd that could eat it in one mouthful. He'd have to have like 50 mouthfuls to eat that cookie.
All right, so Crumbl and
Crumbl and julienne pie.
and key lime pie, which check the show notes. I'll put the name of the place.
That sounds like a plan.
Thanks for listening to The Road Reflected. To follow more of Nicole Wakeland's adventures, head on over to NicoleWakeland.com. There you'll find links to her social media from TikTok to Twitter, as well as her work across a wide range of media outlets. Until next time, keep it shiny side up.